This is my 1968 Chevy Camaro. We just diesel swapped. While it might not look like it now, this thing has spent over 20 years rotting in a nearby field. It finally popped up for sale on Marketplace, and if you know me, I just had to have it. The original plan was simple: get it running and drive it.
Oh, barnacles.
But that didn't go as planned. So instead, I spent the next month turning this abandoned Camaro into this.
Now, I'm no stranger to a big project just like this, so for some extra motivation, I'm gonna drive this thing to get ice cream when it's all finished.
All right, so we want to clean up the engine bay of this thing. Obviously, it's been sitting for a long time. Somebody took the carburetor off of it. Got a nice red rag with some mouse poopy on it. That's been there for a couple years. And then we have all of this, kind of like a mouse nest sort of situation. So I guess I'm gonna get the poop off of it. I'm gonna grab all this yuckiness. Definitely this was something's home for a little bit. Pressure wash the engine bay. Everything is looking a lot better now that we can actually see under all of that dirt and grime and grease and dust. Looking at it right away, we're gonna need a carburetor. We're gonna need a couple spark plug wires, some spark plugs. Overall, I just wanna pull it in, check the oil on it, rotate it over by hand, maybe do a quick compression test, and go from there when you get some parts ordered. So we're gonna get this thing right in the shop.
A lot of you guys might have seen our shop chicken, Potato. Some people say the chickens are actually very smart, and after spending some time with her, I'm starting to really believe them.
Potato, did you poop on the hood? Why did you poop on the hood? That actually, look at that cap, looks pretty nice. And we put a little bit of water in there. All right, do you think it's a 17 or a 16 mil? Oh, it's a 16 actually fits kind of nice on there. Okay, it's tightening. I tried to rotate it, and it was tight, like it was tightening the bolt. So it feels like it's just tightening that bolt, like almost like it would break the crank bolt off of it. So it's not rotating, is what I'm getting at. So there is that spark plug hole that doesn't have a spark plug in it. I'm gonna stick the bore scope in it and see what that looks like.
Shout out to Milwaukee for making this awesome tool. We use it all the time around the shop for many reasons. And occasionally we use it to look into the bores of cylinders to check for rust and other issues.
It looks really rusty. Ooh, that's got rust. It's got a decent amount of rust. The spark plug's rusty. The cylinder's probably rusty. I thought we were just gonna, you know, slap a carburetor on it, throw some plugs and wires on it. This thing might be locked up because of rust. Oh!
That cylinder wall has barnacles going on it.
Barnacles. Yeah, that's not good. Look at how much.
Well, buddy spun it over by hand before you got it about 6 months ago.
That's what he said. All right, so that's unfortunate. I didn't think it was gonna turn out like this. I thought we were just gonna figure it out and take it for a drive, but it turns out it's a big pile of shit. I don't know what we're gonna do with it. Probably just pull it out. Maybe we'll stick it on eBay, but we're gonna pull it out, and I think we have some other plans that was gonna be phase 2 of this build, but I think that means we just gotta move to phase 2 right now.
And to be clear, I never wanted a show car. Actually the opposite. All I see is old Camaros with perfect paint, and going into this build, I was on the fence about how people would feel about me if I didn't do a full restoration. But with a locked up engine, scratches, dents, rust in the paint, I feel completely justified in doing this.
As far as I see it, we only have 2 options right now to put in this thing and get it running and driving and hopefully doing burnouts. And I still need to go get a milkshake, right? Eventually. eventually we need to go get a milkshake. So I'd like you guys to follow me. We're gonna go to this other side of the shop and we're gonna find an engine to put in this car. We have some good options. Okay. B Series Honda, 6-liter Power Stroke, 6.7 Power Stroke, the OM606 Mercedes Turbo Diesel, or right there on the top, that is a GM Ameribera. It's a 4.2 inline 6 aluminum block with a manual transmission, custom setup. Then if we come over here, this fella, this is a legend. This is a diesel 2JZ made by Mercedes, essentially. It's an OM606 turbo diesel. From the factory, they have an electronic injection pump, but I have a full manual injection pump. I have an aftermarket turbo manifold and an HX40 turbo. So the two options that I think would best fit this car is either the OM606 or that Ameribera. Both will make up a lot of power. Both have that like inline 6, super cool, smooth noise. You know, they sound nice. Ameribera or OM606 turbo diesel. That's kind of our dilemma right now.
As being a YouTuber, my job is to create cool and fun, exciting content, not only that I want to build and I get excited about, but stuff that you guys would be excited about. So we think a lot about titles, thumbnails, videos, things that we could do, and purposes of the car. And I think I finally decided which would make the most sense for this thing, what I would be the most stoked about, and I think overall, which is gonna make the best engine for this car.
There we go. We have the 606 on this side of the shop. One big issue, front sump oil pan versus rear sump oil pan. That might be our issue. What do you think, Potato? All right, so the inside of this Mercedes smells like shit. Smells like shit, big time.
No, this one.
The transmission and all the parts for the swapper in there. So I got Eric is right there. He's gonna drive it up front, not me. Yeah, this thing
On the block.
probably the most reliable rig that we got.
I'm actually excited. Who wouldn't want to try it? I'm gonna take this home. Oh!
What? What?
Hey, tasted something.
That's alright.
It might not drive anymore.
So this was supposed to be the car that engine went into. Like this was like, I bought this a long time ago with the intention of putting this in there. There you go.
Oh, it's so bad.
Wait for it. Keep her going. Keep it going. Alright, so in the back of this car is a bunch of very essential pieces. We have a rear sump oil pan, which I honestly forgot that we had. I thought that we were gonna have to do some crazy stuff with that pan. We have a manual transmission. I believe this is out of a BMW 330D in the UK or something like that. So it's a diesel manual transmission. We have an adapter plate, a clutch, a turbo manifold, and an HX40 turbo. So we're gonna load all this stuff up in the bed of that truck and then go put it together and stick it in there and see if it works.
In that whole last clip, I thought that we had a rear sump pan. Turns out it's actually another front sump. It's just for a W124 instead of the W211 that this chassis came out of. So that's actually the front sump pan that I would have actually needed if I was to swap that engine into that wagon, because the guy who I got this transmission and the injection pump from, he actually had it in a W124. So everything that I bought from him was basically ready to drop right into that wagon and have almost a turnkey car. Since we're not putting it in that car anymore, it becomes pretty important that we actually have a rear sump very shortly. I bought all of this stuff in 2021, so I'm kind of just getting a refresher of everything that we have.
This is the key to making power and having it fully mechanical. So this thing is gonna be, let's call it EMP proof. Basically, if you could start this thing, it'll run, you know?
This injection pump has been sitting for about 5 or 6 years now in that cabinet over there. So I just want to get it real cleaned up. The previous owner of this pump on an HX40 turbo made 400 horsepower at 40 pounds boost. And I'm pretty much replicating that exact setup in this car using most of the same parts other than my engine instead of his. The goal right now is to get this thing test fitted in the car as fast as we can. We could figure out what parts we need, what stuff we need to trim, things that we need to order, and basically just get a good picture of what we need to figure out. Because as you guys know, engine swaps, they tend to run long, and they take a little longer than you would initially have planned.
It needs to go down. The problem is we're out of, this is when you wish you had just that extra inch. I think we're ready to just set it in there. I meant to do that. I can definitely tell you we're gonna have to notch that front pan for some. We're gonna have to take it out of there. All right, so we're having some fitment issues right here. So first off, the turbo and the factory engine mount, and the factory engine mount right here on the cross member. What is it? Transmission cross member is also in the way, so we're gonna go ahead and lift this thing back out, take the cross member out, take the turbo off, take that engine mount off, and then we should have a better idea of what we actually need to do to get this thing done, right? This side of the engine is all cleaned up. We got the engine mount off it. We got the, I was gonna say throttle body, but we don't have a throttle body. We have the little intake manifold and EGR thing with that pipe that went forward. We took the AC compressor off, so now we have a lot more room in here to actually look at it and see what we're doing with engine mounts. Also, we uncovered some extra holes. So look at that. We have a plate of 6 holes instead of 4. If we need to, we can make mounts off of that. We'll figure it out. On this side of the engine, we have the same thing. We got 6 bolt holes now. So this turbo manifold puts the turbo up here, whereas the factory turbo manifold had the turbo kind of down here, kind of right in the way of where we're gonna be trying to make engine mounts and all that other stuff. Now that that's out of the way, we have a clear view. Should be able to get a better idea of what we're dealing with here.
So for the first test fit on this thing, we really just want to see exactly where this thing is going to line up. And I know for a fact that we're going to have an issue with this front sump engine pan or the oil pan. You got to be really careful when you're installing these things. You definitely don't want to scratch the paint. You don't want to hit anything in the engine bay. You want to be as careful as possible. Sometimes you just got to wiggle it back and forth, up and down. You got to go in and out. You'll know when it's in there right.
Oh, it's on the subframe. Yeah. I mean, that looks kind of level, but it needs to go down low, way lower.
So if you set that back, how far is that? If that was pushed back to like right there, just drop the whole thing right behind that steering linkage there. The way
We'd have to really cut into the dash.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm a purist. Wouldn't say that I am.
Well, you wouldn't be in the dash, but you'd definitely be into the firewall.
Yeah, I might be all right to go and slip it in the firewall just about 2 feet, you know? You know, like that. That would just be cool to like see, like if it was all the way underneath there. But then turbo, downpipe, all that stuff would be like in the same area. So you'd really have to bash or cut it all out. I would say V1 will figure out something up here. It'd be nice if there was a core. Now we could take a picture.
COALMARO.
We could share with our friend. COALMARO. COALMARO. I like that. This is the delivery that we got today. This is a rear sump oil pan off of a Mercedes OM608, which is out of like it's an 0506
E320 CDI here in the United States. And we got this thing from Benz Injection, which they're here in the United States. This was kind of a used part that they had for sale on their website. They have a bunch of other stuff. They do injection pumps. They have some lines, fittings, a bunch of other things. So if you guys are in need of some injection stuff for your turbo diesel Mercedes, they got a bunch of stuff on their website, so check them out. It was nice that they actually had that thing in stock and they shipped it the same day, which was really rad and helps us move along with this project. Sitting with the big sump, with the front sump on the oil pan right now, isn't gonna get us very far. Eric just sandblasted that. I'm gonna get this thing out of here so that way we can really see where this thing's actually gonna sit and go from there. So you can see it's completely different. This one pretty much would go right there in the front of the sump, which makes sense. This one has a lot lower profile and then picks up oil in the back, but it also picks up oil right here in the front. I had to swap a couple of these bolts because some of them were too long. Bolted it right here, torqued these main caps back up. I looked at the bearing underneath there, literally looked brand new. Got a new bolt here, got that one tightened up. So all we gotta do is throw the timing chain. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of oil in here, you know, and just kind of prime it real quick like that. But Eric out here is pulling the interior apart of this this car. You wanna just pull the, I'll just pull the seats. Because they're yucky.
I had a vacuum on the
How
cup
yucky
around
is
it.
it?
It's disgusting.
So the interior in this car is super gross, dirty. The window's been down for 15 years. And now Eric is gonna pull it all apart, right?
That's not TikTok energy.
That's TikTok energy right there. All right, there it is, look at that. Like the carpet looks like it got burned because it's been sitting there. So we're gonna pull out the interior, clean it up, strip it basically, because I don't really want any of that carpet in there. We might as well just pull that out and throw it away. Clean up the door jambs.
Why would you keep any of it?
That's right. So Eric's gonna be doing that while I'm finishing up over here.
One of my favorite parts about going through these old cars is it's pretty much like a time capsule. You never know what you're gonna get, especially since this thing has been sitting for so long. We found a 1995 $5 bill, a wallet with virtually no money in it, and a bunch of other random things.
All right, so oil pan and everything is on. We got the block flipped over. We got the engine flipped over. Got the intake manifold off. Got the intake ports all taped off because pretty much you have to have intake manifold off to work on this whole thing underneath it. So you can see that's where we got the glow plugs. We need to figure out a way to power them. I think we're just gonna do like some sort of relay. I think that's coolant temp. So this is a fuel heater. This is actually a lift pump from the tank. So this actually creates a vacuum and pressurizes the whole pump. This is the fuel shutoff solenoid, so that turns it on and off. And I just watched a video, so I learned a bunch of stuff about this thing too. So now we need to pull off this electronic pump and get it all timed and everything in the front. I got that kind of moved over. I think we got to pull off the front of the vacuum pump in order to release this injection pump and pull that thing off. All right, so pump is on. We just need to hook up the lines and the fuel stuff, but I'm gonna come back on Monday and continue with that, but overall, it's looking pretty good.
Pretty happy with all of the parts that I bought for this thing a long time ago. I have valve cover gaskets, water pump gaskets, bunch of nice little things like that to try to keep this thing all brand new. So we're gonna go ahead and replace the valve cover gasket on this thing. The inside of the engine looks pretty much brand new, and I'm really happy with how clean everything looks on the inside. After cleaning up the valve cover, Eric is over here working on the brakes of this car. So right now they leak and they don't stop or stop the wheel cylinders at all. So we're gonna completely replace all the wheel cylinders all the way around. Once we get this valve cover all cleaned up, we can stick it back on the engine. And one of my goals is to get this engine running on the engine stand. Make sure the mechanical pump is timed right, everything is running, revving, and just seeming like it is ready to go in the car. Since it is fully mechanical, we don't have very much stuff to hook up on it.
And boys, so this right here is a fuel heater. So it goes into the cylinder head. It heats the fuel that goes into the pump, which is pretty cool. But we're deleting that because we have this thing right here. So this is a throttle cable bracket, and it goes right there and it replaces that.
This throttle cable bracket is a pretty cool piece from Diesel Pump UK. It converts it to a cable style system that should be easy to hook up in the car. These fuel lines on the top of the engine are not the right ones, and they may leak, but we'll figure that out later once we get it installed in the car.
We're very close to a start. So we have the starter on here, put a flywheel, we have the injection pump on, we have all the fuel lines on, we just need to run fuel feed lines. So we need to give the lift pump, or this pump right there that like sucks from the tank, give that a feed line. It will pressurize up here, then we have to have a return line going back into the tank. We should be able to run it. Also, we don't have a turbo on it right now. We don't have the right fittings. So we should be able to at least fire it off right here on the stand. Look at that, we got fuel. I guess they like a little starting fluid too.
for our glow plugs.
Well, that fuel looked like it just made it to the pump, though. Yeah, it's not returning yet, I don't think.
Yeah, it's gonna take it a minute.
Still no fuel.
Just to see what happens.
Still no, oh, there we go. We just got fuel now. We just started coming out as you stopped. So give her.
It feels like it has a slight misfire. I don't know if maybe it just needs to run a little bit more, get a little bit. That one's hot, 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 hot. Kind of, I don't know. We're gonna do a misfire test here.
That thing's definitely, I don't know, that injector, is there like a hold down bolt on it?
This is the next day. Yesterday we had that weird little issue with that injector where it started like popping in this top. It was like compression, like you could feel it. You'd rev it up and go pop, 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 pop. Like you could hear it like tick, tick, tick. Almost sounded like a tick. So we pulled it out. We didn't film it, but there's a sealing, kind of like a thicker copper O-ring, but it's not copper. It goes on the bottom of the injector, and it looked like it was like hammered. It looked like it had like moved or rotated around. So I don't know if the injector wasn't torqued down enough or if the injectors have ever been out of here. But anyhow, we pulled it out. We cleaned it up with like some 1000 grit. We cleaned up the bottom of it. We put it back in, torqued it down. I'm in here looking right now, and I don't know if that's carbon, but that's the top of the piston right there. So shout out to this Milwaukee thing, but look at the cylinder walls in here too. Like the crosshatch looks brand new in there. So we got some good crosshatching. I think when you spin this thing around and you look up at the valves, overall everything looks okay. You can see there's crosshatch through that little bit of like, not rust, but maybe just because it's been sitting for a little bit. So, well, I loosened it and it felt like it breaks loose and then it gets tighter.
Like a spark plug in a Triton 5.4.
The glow plugs are known to not be fun in these things. Like it's like glow plugs.
Do they break off or do they fuck up the threads? Or
I don't know.
heat it up, man, some heat.
I don't know what we ought to do.
Yeah, this doesn't feel good. I'm kind of scared.
But like if we're gonna do it, like right now is the time to do it, I guess, which is dumb. But
should I just give her? Oh yeah, I don't want to be able to break this. It's not gonna break. I worked it back and forth, and I was trying to be nice to it, but that's kind of bound to. Why do they do that?
we don't know. Maybe we should watch a video on it. We messed up the glow plug, and so we're gonna try to heat the engine up. That way we can get the rest of the glow plugs out. So we're gonna let this thing run for a little bit. Need a little bit. Oh, look at this.
Yeah, it's coming out of that hole.
So you see we got it nice and hot. Came right out. I wish we'd have just done this to begin with, but
now it should come out pretty easy though, based upon that.
Damn. That is crazy.
Like a wall.
Dang it, I wish we would have just did that to begin with, but we didn't know. So this is the one we tried to loosen this morning before everything was hot, and it basically just locked up and was mad. The head of it broke off, so now we're gonna have to do something magical with like tapping it, reverse something. We're gonna have to figure something out.
Now's the time.
So this is the part of the build that could send you down the rabbit hole and just take up all of the time. Imagine having to pull this cylinder head off, send it to the machine shop, and have this glow plug manually extracted. So we're doing everything we possibly can at the shop to try to get this thing out without damaging the cylinder head. And this is one of the most common issues and the thing that you don't want to happen.
So we have a big problem. So when we pulled that piece of tungsten out for the glow plug, you could see there was a little nut on the end of it, or a threaded piece, which is where this tip kind of threads on. We put that on the slide hammer. We were able to get it out,
but this piece is still stuck in there along with this whole bottom. So if we can't get this whole piece out right now, we have one of these screw extractor sets. If we can't get it in right now, we might have to pull the cylinder head off of this, and that means that we're gonna be delayed probably a week on getting our ice cream, and that's not very good. So I have this on the impact, and we're just gonna hope that this comes out. I seen it move. I wonder if it's like expanding it. You know, it's going in there and it's like putting pressure to get it out. I wonder if I should stick a bolt in there and just weld it. With the TIG welder, just get close to it, just stick a bolt, weld it, have her come out that way. This engine is hot. It's got a weld on it. I don't know if it's good. We're gonna let it cool down a little bit because we don't want to start hammering on it right now.
So when I got that tungsten out, I thought it was as simple as welding a bolt to this thing, and this thing was just gonna twist right off and just come right out of there, and that was not the case. After breaking some more bolts, we tried MIG welding it on as well. Sean really thought he was gonna be able to get this thing off and he was gonna be the savior of that whole entire project, but turns out he was wrong.
So we watched another YouTube video, the YouTube video that actually told us that we should start it and warm it up before you do this, and that's how all 5 of them were just like burn, and they came right out. Obviously we're having big issues. Sean tapped in, he came here, welded it, MIG welded it, didn't work. Camera guy got behind it, he tried to do it, messed it up. So I grinded it down, I drilled it out so now we could get down in the hole again. We pulled out that initial piece of tungsten, and so what we figured out now is we need to tap it twice. So since we got the tungsten out, we're actually gonna tap this in here with an M8 thread. We're gonna drill it, tap it with M8. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this drill bit, which this thread is M12 by 125. That drill bit is the same size as this shank right here. Basically what that's gonna allow us to do is we'll tap this first with the M8, then we're gonna drill this right past the threads, thread in a bolt with the slide hammer, pull this out, and then retap those threads. That's how Lukey Dale did it, Diesel Pump UK. He's the guy who made this pump and adapter plate and all the things, so he should know what he's talking about. All right, so we got the hole drilled out. You can see down in there a little bit. I think we made it past the threads finally. So this is the attachment for the slide hammer. So we stick that down in there. Damn, that, Sean, look at this. The whole entire like side of it is just like full of crusty. Wow. But that's it. She freaking came out. Holy crap. Yeah, that's what I had to do is I had to tap into this, drill away all the threads on the top. Now we just need to retap the top so that way a new glow plug can thread in. And they don't seal on the threads on the top. They actually seal right here on the very bottom right there. So it's crazy how much effort it took even with the slide hammer. Like I was hitting that thing and it barely came out.
That's why that one broke, because that one had an issue being stuck in.
Well, yeah, all of the friction of it. Where'd it go?
It wasn't even sealing right here because it's supposed to seal right down there, and this is supposed to be clean.
Yeah, wonder if that was what we were hearing.
Instead it's full of soot.
All right, so I'm waiting on one of those washers on the top to see if we could figure out the issue over here. But I got a new water pump, we got a new oil filter housing, engine mount plates right here. So this is a universal set. That way we can stick it in the car and then weld something to this and then go to like the factory mount location. I got the dipstick in. I would really like to get this thing running again and figure out this injector, but it got delayed like a day due to shipping because all the holidays. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing off of the engine stand, get it mounted to the transmission with the clutch, the adapter plate, all of that stuff, and then stick it in the car so that way we could see what we're gonna have to start doing for engine mounts. All right, so this car was originally automatic and we need to convert it to a manual. And one of the biggest things with that, where I was kind of scratching my head for a couple minutes until I found this product right here. How do we get a clutch pedal in here? So McLeod Racing actually has this. So this goes next to your factory brake pedal. I think we're just gonna cut that. It replaces the pin here in the top. So I believe the factory brake pedal is pinned right here. And essentially this will just go in right next to it. We'll cut that pedal and then we'll have a clutch pedal and it converts it to a hydraulic sort of setup. This will actually go through the firewall over there at an angle kind of like this, and it'll push down, convert it over to a clutch hydraulic fitting. So here we have this little 4AN setup, and this is gonna come over here to our manual BMW transmission. So this is a transmission out of a BMW 330D in like the UK. We never got a manual transmission diesel BMW over here. So the gear ratio should match pretty good, and we already have the adapter plate flywheel. Once we get the engine in there mounted, that thing hooked up, it's like run some fuel lines and hook up the drive shaft, and we should be able to rip this thing. So hopefully it's not too much more than that, but this is a good step.
All right, so adapter plate, clutch, all that stuff is back on it with the transmission officially bolted up. And now we could start stuffing it here in the engine bay. So while I've been kind of messing with that, Eric has been over here working on the brake system. So essentially we replaced all 4 of the wheel cylinders. Plan is to upgrade this thing to disc brakes in the future, but just not right now. We want to get it running and driving kind of as cheap as possible. I got on Amazon and I ordered these guys right here. So these are an adapter from the like 5x120 or like 5x4.75 to 5x114. So we're actually gonna take the old like T37 reps off of my drift car. We're gonna put that on here. I don't think I've ever seen like T37s on like an older Camaro. Everybody just does like the classic wheels. So
Have you guys ever seen lipstick on a pig?
well, so we're gonna go ahead and stick this thing in the engine bay, see how it looks with the new rear sump oil pan. Well, it's kind of hitting some of this stuff. We're sitting on the steering shaft in the back and we have a couple inches to go. Alright, so we've made it past the shaft. It's rubbing on it, and we have a little bit of room in the tranny tunnel, but it's actually touching right on the top of it. You guys can't see that. If we hammer that, this thing's gonna go back and sit in there perfect.
I need to make...
Alright boys, so first test fit is complete. Now that we bashed the transmission tunnel out, the engine was able to scoot back a lot further. We actually have a little bit more room. I think we could shove it back a little bit more. Right now it is sitting on the oil pan, but we're gonna raise it up probably about a ½ inch or so. Right here is where we have those engine mount plates. So we'll pretty much just run something down, maybe a bushing, maybe not, maybe just solid mount it. We're gonna keep this steering box for now and just try to adapt it to this power steering pump. So we'll take the power steering pump from this, take the return line from that. We'll probably run it to a cooler of some sort. This side of the engine, I guess I should test fit the turbo manifold, make sure all that stuff looks good, but everything seemingly is looking all right. Just gonna leave it here. I ordered some like engine mount brackets to adapt some stuff. So in the meantime, this is where she sits. You gotta reduce that a little bit. All right, so we got some parts today. So we're moving on to the fuel tank over here. So previously we discovered, since this car wasn't a 454 big block with the 4-barrel carburetor, it did not have a return system on the fuel system. So you can see right here, this is just a single, basically just a feed. So this is actually a fuel system or a fuel level sensor off of like a 69 big block car with a 4-barrel. So this has a factory return, which basically means that we don't have to drill any holes, do anything special or funny. We just stick that in and we get a fresh fuel level sending unit and a fresh little in-tank filter right there. So this is gonna go ahead and go into the tank, which will be really nice as long as it fits. And as long as it fits, then it's gonna ship. Now we need to see if the turbo manifold fits and clears in the engine bay. And I received some of my engine mounts from Amazon. So we're trying to do like a universal style thing. I didn't want to like buy a tube and a bushing and some other stuff, so I just got these Amazon mounts next day delivery. These are LS style engine mounts. We also have a set right here. What I'm probably gonna end up doing is just cutting off this little section and then making our own plate. We have some of these little ears right here. So those will go like that. So we'll weld these to the plates that we got from Ben's Force. Weld this to that, or bolt that to that, and then this will go to the plate on the chassis. Before we do that, we need to put the engine in the right spot. Right now it's setting on the subframe. I'm probably gonna take like a,
5/16 piece of plywood or whatever. Stick that underneath it so we have a little bit of an air gap. These bushings are kind of a really hard polyurethane, so I don't think they're gonna flex very much at all. And we also need to put the turbo manifold on and make sure that the turbo manifold and the turbo clears everything, and then we can proceed with making the mounts. Well, that's touching there. With that, where the engine actually either needs to tilt over that way a little bit more, which I think it could, and that should give us some more space. And then I want to clock this because this is kind of in a weird position. One of my favorite things about working on this thing so far is you have this beautiful tool tray right here. All that stuff on it, you don't got to worry about the paint. It's refreshing.
Working on this old car has been a nice change of pace and has me pretty excited just for the fact of how simple everything is. It doesn't have to be perfect, and as long as we get this thing mounted in the car with some simple engine mounts, we should be able to just turn the key and get it running, because it is just such a simple setup with that fully mechanical turbo diesel engine, and I can't wait to get this thing done. So we need to plasma cut out these plates right here. Shout out to HTP, that plasma cutter works great.
All right, so we just use the plasma cutter to go ahead and cut these plates out. So this is kind of a rough cut. It's gonna give us plenty of space, kind of left to right and kind of up and down. But they're pretty thick. I think that's about a 1/4 inch thick. And they look pretty nice, but we're using the HTP micro cut. It's a 445 DV, which means that we could use it either 110 or 220, which right now we're just using it 220. That thing's awesome for cutting all the metal stuff. I actually have an attachment for like a tool. So if we ever got a plasma table, I could use that on the plasma table to cut stuff out. And it's moments like these where now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, it would be really nice to have a plasma table, even just a small one, to make little brackets and stuff like that, projects like this. But for now, this works. I did use a little guide down the side, and I cut it pretty straight.
So I tasked Sean with the transmission mount and mounting this transmission in the car. Sean does not take anything lightly, and if you ask him to do something, he's gonna get it done, and he won't let absolutely anything stand in his way. No matter how hard he has to hit it, it's gonna get done. You should really see how this guy eats.
So we just got the engine mounts tacked in here, and while I was messing with some of that, Sean was laying underneath the car with the tranny, and now we have a couple other little things to figure out. I wanna see if this turbo fits. Look at that. Because we actually didn't confirm that. Oh, look at that. So, turbo fits, the engine is sitting in there. It's kind of level-ish, right? Would you say that that's level-ish?
Yeah, I think maybe when we bolt it down for good, maybe put a spacer between the tranny mount and the tranny bracket.
And then, well, you really like the trannies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty
Thank
good.
you.
We just did a winter call with our R33, which was pretty cool, which you guys probably seen that live. If you want to help support the channel and keep us doing some really cool and exciting builds just like this one, you can support us by shopping on motionautotv.com, motionautperformance.com, or shopping our used parts on eBay, where we have 600 used parts from tons of stuff I've had laying around the shop. We have 2J parts, Mustang parts, we have a ton of Super Duty stuff, OM606 stuff, and a lot of things off of this Camaro. And if you heard me right in that last clip, Tyler Dell, he shopped with us on Motion Auto TV last month. He purchased a couple things, and he actually won that R33 GTST. Check out on the website, see if we're doing a giveaway, or if you just want to help support the channel and keep us doing cool stuff like this. We got a lot of work to do, so let's get back to it. The COALMARO is coming along. So here's the engine mounts. I don't know how good you were able to see those before. They're tacked, they're not welded, but they're coming along. This was, this is what you get. Overnight delivery from Amazon. So now I think all there is left to do is pull this thing out, final weld the engine mounts, and then it's time to actually hook up the fuel system. Interesting Amazon find, necessity. We have a 6N feed for a turbo. This is a 6N to 4N conversion. Take a look at this. Converts this 4-and fitting right there to a 6-and.
Thank fuck for Amazon.
Right? 6-and fitting, 4-and fitting going into the turbo because that was the only one I had. And that HX40 is going to be screaming here soon. Oh. So that's how it'll do. Down here, intercooler piping. There's not too many things I've seen on the internet with front mount intercoolers on 60s first gen Camaros. CX Racing has a kit. They have an intercooler, and I have a very similar size intercooler. I think that we could use in here, and should work good. What? You should go turn the fucking wheel. Look, because this, that might go boop.
But you know we can change sides with it.
Oh, yeah, but then it might hit over here. Put that on the back side. We'd have to drill the shank.
Yeah.
Give it another hole this way or
something.
I don't know what we'd have to do. We'd have to figure that out. But this thing's definitely getting angle mods, and we're drifting it.
Okay.
Oh,
Keep going.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna get.
Pissed.
Keep going.
Fuck. All right, stop. So we're gonna have to.
It's maxed because it's freaking hitting them. Damn it.
So there's a few options here.
Yeah,
go the other way.
Go the other way. Rubs it again.
Rubs it again, yep.
We could cut the pan, give it a little, or we could go. I mean, in theory, we could go back further with the engine, but we already tacked the.
We already did everything.
Man,
I don't know.
it's dumb.
It is pretty dumb.
I thought we were getting ready to fire this rig up. Literally, the fuel lines just ran.
So we have a little bit of a problem. So we have tacked in the motor mounts. Anyway, the motor's basically held up in place where it was gonna sit. But if you can look right here, here's the oil pan, here's the steering bar, and it's hitting the oil pan. So that's not gonna work. So if you look over here, up here behind the head and the firewall, we have, I'd say, a good inch and a half or so that we can still move the motor back. So we're gonna undo the tacks that we did on the motor mounts, slide it back as far as we can, and see if that'll clear our path right here for the steering parts to kind of stay away from the oil pan. So hopefully figure that out.
Look at that. It doesn't even touch. It might touch, but it doesn't right now. We figured out where we need to have the drive shaft shortened to. Then the next thing we need to do is install this shifter. So it's kind of a chassis mounted shifter. Just mount it to the transmission tunnel. So I stick this guy in this hole right here. Nice little area. It's probably where we need to drill the hole. And that'll give us our pilot hole for the hole saw. This is probably one of the most popular cars to modify in the aftermarket world. For like a 240SX, you could get on eBay or Amazon or whatever and get like a seat mount bracket to like mount these rails to. 2 of them for $100. Obviously like reproduction China ones or whatever. But for this car, they're like $350 for literally the cheapest looking stamped steel that you've ever seen. It's kind of interesting. I got this off of Amazon. This is just a side mount seat bracket. And in the car, we actually have this, which this was in the cheap E36 that I got when we were in Florida. This was a free seat that Mr. LZ said if I wanted it, I could have it. So I think it kind of matches the theme. It's all ratty, you know, and gross. We just want to get a seat in here. Now we're gonna take this bracket and see if it bolts down to the OEM floor. You can see right here, we have all these slots on the bottom. That lines up with the front. Damn, look at that. So that lines up perfect. This one is gonna line up if that one lines up. And then that pretty much means that we just need to bolt it on the seat. And if the seat's happy, then we're happy. So yeah, these are just some universal rails off of Amazon. I think they were like $80 or something like that. Oh yeah. Bolting in enough. Oh, I tell you what. Oh, that's it. All right, so we got this beautiful socket off of Amazon. We're gonna replace this back injector washer. You know, hopefully that gets rid of our noise, kind of making it pop. And there's like some combustion coming up around that back cylinder, so hopefully that's it. So the washer's down in there. So this one looks a little hammered, and that's even after we cleaned it up. So this one looks new. It's actually an OEM Mercedes-Benz one, so those are supposed to be the good ones. Stick this fella in there. Hopefully it's all right. Alright guys, so engine mounts are in and tightened. I went ahead and made a quick little glow plug harness off of the factory one. I'll hit this with just some 12 volt before we crank this thing over. And I went ahead and I sucked a vacuum on the fuel system. We got some fuel up to here at least. So as soon as we start cranking this thing over, we should be able to hear it fire off right away. Have a little bit of starting fluid just in case. We have the new injector washer in it. Have the turbo officially mounted over here with the feed line, the drain return, all that stuff. It's fully bolted on with a fresh gasket. Manifold is on. So we are very close to starting this thing. Pretty much all I need to do is actually just take off the tape right here, and then we can crank it over. I have my throttle cable going to the, well, nowhere, but I have it hooked up right there. Should be able to start this thing. See how it sounds now. All right, I think we're ready. We had one casualty, and that is we didn't have a hose clamp on the fuel return, so it was basically just returning to the floor. So we get that turned up. It still feels like, still sounds like it has a little bit of a miss in that back cylinder. Like something's going on. I don't know if it's the pre-chamber, if it's the injector that's bad. We replaced that washer. I'm not sure what else it could be, or maybe if it didn't go back in there straight or something like that. But I went ahead and I pushed the Alda a little bit further forward. So this is basically replicating hitting boost. So it moves this forward and allows the fuel to like deliver more fuel. So when you hit boost, this lever goes out and delivers more fuel to the pump. What I've seen is to kind of bump that forward and then give it a couple good blips of throttle, and then it will give it hopefully a ton of fuel through the injectors to kind of clear it out and smooth it out, because it still seems like it's not running 100%. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like a thumpy, a little bit of a thump.
We don't like a thump, but it does run. It's in there. This was pretty simple. It seemed like it liked starting off with the glow plugs a lot better.
Yeah, with that
than the starting fluid and stuff. Yeah. So we literally hit it with the glow plugs and it fired right off. So still got a couple things to button up. No. This is a radiator off of eBay. It's just a big block setup, which has, I think, the water port on a different side. This is kind of similar to how it was on the factory. So we should just be able to get a nice little S hose right here. This one's similar to a JZ, so it goes right there on the bottom. Decent, I would say 16-inch fan. And this is the hose configuration that I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna go to the parts store in the morning, run to the back with this piece of wire right here. I already made one for the bottom radiator hose as well. So as long as we get those tomorrow, this thing should be close to driving. Right, this is what we have. Gets us close, there's movement here and there. All right, so just trimmed a little bit off of this side. There we go, beautiful radiator hose on the top. And so after a nice cut and a couple trims later, it looks pretty good. Got it clamped down, upper one is clamped down. So one thing that we haven't talked about a whole lot is that this thing is gonna be a manual transmission, and in order for it to have a manual transmission, we have to drill a hole for this shifting mechanism right here. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do right now, this beautiful hole saw. So we need to mount this BMW style chassis mounted shifter. So we got to drill a simple hole, bolt it in the bottom, and then the linkage just goes straight to the top of the transmission, and it shifts and feels really nice. Once we get the clutch bled, now we can move on to one of the most annoying parts of the build that a car guy can have. Check out this wiring right here. What do you make of this? Look at that, that was twisted with some tape on it in the fender. Maybe that went to the alternator.
Yeah.
Yep. Then this fella right here goes over to that fella.
Your headlights are
that's where the battery goes.
You know, I say we do here. Rip it all out. You should wire it.
What is that?
This is probably your headlight shit.
Oh, this probably went to the distributor, right? That was the coil for the distributor.
I wonder
look at this guy. That's melded.
Hey,
I
you
guess
took
the
the
power's
starter
already
out of
done.
here. Which one was the starter wire?
But it needs to be cut because you're gonna have a bunch of issues.
Yeah, I'm not gonna deal with this. I'll cut it up here where it's nice.
Yeah.
And then we'll
figure
just
figure it out. Yeah.
We're just gonna cut that because that's, look at that. It's been like twisted together multiple times, black taped. I can't believe this car was on the road. So we set the intercooler in there, and I ordered some couplers overnight from Amazon. Right there. So I think we could get that figured out, but before we do that, I would like to get this thing starting and kind of running hopefully off of the key. So we're gonna be installing the battery, which we already have installed over there. Sean is helping me do some battery cable management and wiring some stuff around in the engine bay. So anyhow, Sean is getting this stuff ready to hook up to the alternator, the starter. On the engine bay over here, I got my $29 Amazon power steering kit for an older GMC 10. So you can see we have AN fittings that go into the rack right there. We have an AN fitting on this pump, which this was metric, which that was actually surprisingly included. We have a high pressure PTFE line that I need to make now that it's the right length. And then we have the return. It's gonna go up here to the factory Mercedes pump. So we should have power steering in here as well. So we put the little acorn down there, shove this thing down, twist that, and now we have a high pressure power steering line. I could cut a lot out of these, and I think that'll be good. And then I think I just need to trim a little bit of this lower plate, kind of go down with the intercooler pipe, and then just go back up.
You know what I like? Banging dude.
So we were ready to fire this thing off with the key for the first time. We did a little bit of exhaust work right here just to get it up and out of the engine bay because it's already been making the back of the firewall black. Hooked this little power wire up right here, which this gives some stuff to this guy over here. We have a push button momentary switch for the relay. Intake manifold is on, intercooler piping is on. Together it's bled. We got a new thermostat in it. We got a fan thermo switch here that needs hooked up. So we're gonna go ahead and fire this thing up and then actually just drive it on the lift and see how that is. Make sure it goes through all the gears, the brakes work. Getting closer to being able to drive this thing. Sean is wiring up the fans right now, so that is actually triggered with this little fan thermo switch. Since this thing is fully mechanical, you know, it'd be nice if it was had a little bit of technology in it. That's a very simple thing, just a switch. When a relay, as soon as it gets to a certain temperature, it'll kick on the fan. I don't have to worry about turning on the fans or turning them off. They'll come on and off as they please. So the next thing that we did is we actually got a glow shift EGT sensor over here. So I went ahead and drilled and tapped the manifold right there. So we'll be able to see our EGTs. This is actually a 3-in-1 gauge too, so you can see we have boost on the outside because that's the fun one to look at. It goes up to 60 pounds because this thing should be making hopefully 40 pounds boost. We have our EGT right there, and then we have a coolant temp since we don't have a coolant temp gauge for the car. So we'll go ahead and run this guy. Coolant temp sensor, boost pressure sensor, EGT sensor, 3-in-1 combo gauge, ready to rip. So one thing that has been cramping my style the whole time is this big giant steering wheel. It's hard to get in and out of the car. It's really, really big. I just don't like it. So we need to actually remove this thing. Also, look at that gauge. So we have boost, exhaust gas temp, and coolant temperature, which is pretty cool. So now we have gauges officially. We have the clutch that works and is bled. We got the shifter. Finishing touch is this steering wheel we're gonna stick on right here. This is a Sparco racing wheel that I got off of my buddy's Circle Track car. Instead of popping myself in the face with this thing, we're just gonna go ahead and thread this this bolt in here, remove the steering wheel.
So this video has gone by pretty quick for you guys, but we've actually spent 2 months working on this thing. So lots of time, money, and parts. And I've had this vision in my head of how rad this car is gonna be. Turning the key, making black smoke, and doing a burnout all the way down the road. And I hope that this thing lives up to my expectations.
All right, so big moment. The moment we've all been waiting for is, will this thing run and drive under its own power? We know it starts. We just hooked up the key. The key works. This is glow plugs. So we'll just hold that for 10 seconds or so. Alright guys, we finally got this turbo diesel running in our Camaro. We're gonna see if it'll do a burnout.
After swapping this car and bringing the idea to life, you may think I've achieved my goal, but I still have some unfinished business left to do.
COALMARO, hear the thunder roll. Black
All right, let's get some ice cream.
rising, eating up your soul. Burnout scars, rubber and coal, COALMARO.
We got the coal car.
All right, boys, so we made it. We made our goal. We were able to get this thing running and driving after sitting for probably 25 plus years. Take it to go get some ice cream, and it drove pretty good. We got a couple little things we need to button up, but that is gonna be what the next video is for. So appreciate you guys watching this video. If you really like it, thumbs up the video, share it to your friends, and see you guys in the next one.
It's out of control.